Can you imagine if some of these reporters were working on a farm and you planted some seeds and they came out next day and they looked and nothing's happened. There's no crop. We're gonna starve. Oh no! It's been a week, folks.
Well, we're not gonna let his admonishments keep us down. In that spirit, we're gonna plant a seed right now with Martin Frost, the former congressman from Texas, a Democrat from Texas for 26 years from Dallas, in the Dallas area, and a former chairman of the DCCC. And we talked at the top of the show about this CNN poll that has a 3-point advantage now for Republicans. What's behind that, do you think, and is this problematic for Democrats?
Well, the generic ballot question moves around. When I was chair of the DCCC, sometimes we'd have a 2 or a 3-point advantage over the Republicans, and we'd try and tout that, and people would say, oh, that's a couple of points, that doesn't make any difference. The question really is, what's it going to be the month before the election, 2 weeks before the election? Things will move around. This is of consequence because this is the first time in a while that the Republicans have opened up any type of gap, but a lot can happen in the next 7 months.
But Congressman, not just the generic congressional ballot. The poll number we were showing this earlier was this idea of who can better handle the economy, which it seems that even though there have been some positive signs of economic growth, the Republicans are just now emerging, and I don't mean just today's numbers, obviously not reflected in this poll, but the Republicans are now emerging with this slight edge on handling the economy that's been a Democratic stronghold. Does that mean that there are short memories here and the country no longer blames Bush, you think, for the economy?
Well, that's more troubling for Democrats, quite frankly, than anything on the generic. And this administration has got to focus in the next 7 months on creating jobs. And to the extent they get distracted by energy policy, that they get distracted by immigration policy, they're going to make a mistake. They've got to continue to advance ideas to Congress that Congress can pass, that can be directed toward job creation, small business, and otherwise. And if they aren't successful in that, they're in real trouble.
Distracted by energy policy, the president gave a big energy speech this week and made clear that this is going to be a big push from his administration.
It's still very tough to pass a bill like that. It's very controversial. His own Secretary of the Interior had said, strike cap and trade from the record. We're not talking about that anymore. It's very unclear where this is going. And this will be a hard, hard fight for the administration.
But he led with drilling. And he said, look, we're going to be opening up some areas that have been off limits for a long time. Do you think this is, what's the play here from him to say, look, we're going to give something to Republicans, essentially?
Well, first of all, Republicans haven't said they're going to give any votes back in exchange. You can look at this from one perspective and say, this is really an effort by the president to triangulate. This is an effort to be Bill Clinton, to move toward the center by being for nuclear power and being for drilling offshore. Whether it's going to actually produce an energy bill is anybody's guess at this point. But he's got to, whatever he does on energy, he's got to focus on the economy. Everything that he does from now until November ought to have some impact on the economy. And that's what members of Congress want. I ran the campaign committee in 1996 and 1998, and we picked up seats that year. We didn't pick up enough to get back in control, but we had a fairly coherent message. And there has to be a message that's jobs, jobs, jobs. Anything else that detracts from that is a problem for members of Congress, and they're going to be tugging at the president's coat sleeves here and saying, please, please send us more jobs bills.
Congressman, when you take a look at the landscape right now, and talking even about energy, obviously the House already voted on cap and trade and passed it. That's going to hurt. That's going to be a vote, at least, that a lot of Democrats are going to have to defend in vulnerable districts. Add the health care votes, the stimulus votes. Obviously, these are some controversial votes that they've taken. Do you see a scenario right now where Republicans can get these 40 seats and get back to the majority?
Well, it's theoretically possible. It's still very hard for them. Rick and I were talking before we went on the air about what's the over-under at this point. My over-under is 30. I think that right now it looks like that you might have a loss that great. I don't see a loss greater than that. The president has a chance to recoup some. Congress has a chance to recoup some. But they better put their nose to the grindstone, because if this thing could get away from them, I don't think the Republicans are going to take the House back, but right now the climate's not very good, and they had some nice pieces of tax credits for the HIRE Act for people going out and hiring people who'd been unemployed. They need to look for some other things like that.
In our last 30 seconds or so, there's a story in the Washington Post today about the so-called no-fly zone that may surround the president as he campaigns this fall, places that he won't want to go. Do you look at that and say regionally there are places that he is going to be more of a liability than anything else?
I think his time is best spent where he can be helpful. Let's put it that way. And there's some areas where his presence will not be helpful. Other presidents have had the same thing. He's
Such
not,
as?
he's not the only one. I mean,
where do you say, if you look at the map, that these are places that he should not be going to?
Probably not too much in the South. Ought to spend some time in the Midwest. Those are swing districts where the economy is very, very important. The Southern, there are a lot of Southern members who are at risk here. They're going to be pretty much on their own in this election. They're going to have to raise a lot of money and run good campaigns. He ought to spend his time in the Northeast and the Midwest.
All right. Former Congressman Martin Frost.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Congressman Frost. Appreciate that. We want to make sure everyone tunes in this Sunday for This Week with Jake Tapper as the host. His guest it'll be all about the economy. Larry Summers, Director of the Economic Council at the White House, and Alan Greenspan, former Fed Chairman. You won't want to miss it.
That's right. A couple of bigwigs on the economy. And I'll be tweeting along the way starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where you can watch it in Washington. It's twitter.com/thenote. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here on Monday.
Click us on Monday.